utilizing that first 15 to 20 minutes of doing soft tissue mobility, warm up, and those types of things tells you more about like what you're going to be up against or things that maybe you should ask more questions about. That if you just do the casual, like, oh, like, hey man, like, what'd you do last night? How was dinner? And you waste that opportunity, then you miss out on so much information as a coach that you could be gathering that is going to determine what you're going to see next.
Welcome to the Captains and Coaches Podcast. We explore the art and the science of leadership through the lens of athletics and beyond. I'm your host, Tex McQuilkin, and today I travel to Fast Performance in Denver, Colorado to sit down with Joel Raether, 17 years as a strength and conditioning coach for the Colorado Mammoth and a leading pioneer for hunting and performance training. Joel has mastered the art of seeing beyond the physical, and you're about to get a masterclass on Joel's process-oriented approach to using failure as fuel for growth, why authentic relationships trump perfect programming, and his empowering philosophy that excellence isn't about being perfect, it's about bringing your best to this moment. We'll explore how creating perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities for athletes and why the most impactful coaches focus on developing the complete human. With that, let's hand it off to Joel to help us raise the game. Ready, and ready.
It's rare that I do a podcast in my studio for someone else.
Yeah.
So this is a treat. I didn't have to do anything but just come in, sit down, and I say look good, but I mean, this is as good as it's going to get. So.
Just be you.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead off with a fun question here.
Okay.
Because you've been with the Mammoth for how long?
Just finished year 17.
You're 17.
Yeah.
And then the NHL Utah hockey team is just renamed.
Oh, geez. We're going there right away.
Their squad.
Yes.
And
do you want me, how many people have already reached out to me about this?
Yeah, because the Mammoth's Twitter account started chirping Utah and being like, hey, hello.
Yeah.
Because even the hashtag was...
I saw that on ESPN last night, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, which is Tusks. Well, they said Tusks, plural, Tusks up. But that actually started from one of our players in a postgame. He was the one that actually they did a postgame interview after we had won a game, Connor Robinson, and they do all the rigmarole, oh, what do you think tonight? This and that, whatever. And it's on field, and everyone's excited. And he says, Tusk up, baby. And it just stuck. Mm-hmm. And so now fast forward to this conversation and you're kind of like, oh my gosh. So, but I don't know. I told people, I said, maybe it'll be good for us. Maybe a lot of people will find out about, the Colorado Mammoth, that they'll accidentally stumble on us, that there's another mammoth out there that existed long before,
yeah,
like the actual mammoth, than the newest mammoth on the block. So
yeah. Indoor lacrosse is something special. So as a field player myself, and we got the opportunity in summer, just stick us in some form of roller rink.
Yeah.
Just to get the team together. But as a defensive middie, that was my dream. Yeah. It's just now these hits are legal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the fun and the excitement with indoor, is it takes everything and closes it into that, confined space. And at the end of the day, it's just, there's a lot more physicality.
Yeah.
There's a lot more contact. And I find that as much as it's still lacrosse and lacrosse is lacrosse, they're just so different, right?
Yeah.
So different compared to the field game.
I mean, smaller windows and then the physicality. I've coached Canadian dudes at the college level, and it's like the weight room doesn't make sense between their speed, their shot, and then like seeing them not bench press 185 pounds, but just
more
be
times than I can count.
Toughest, like dude out there.
Yeah, it's such an anomaly, and I've had this conversation so many times with guys where we've tried to wrap our head around what are the key performance indicators, right? Like, what are those for lacrosse? And in all the years that I've worked with lacrosse players and previous to a few iterations of places that I've been, I spent 7 or 8 years at the Division I level. I worked at the University of Denver. So my first iteration with lacrosse was field.
Mm-hmm.
And we just so happened to be recruiting a lot of Canadian players at that time. Jamie Monroe was the head coach, and so that was kind of like this slow burn of how I ended up with the Mammoth. Was a lot of those players were playing in indoor Canadian in the summer, and then some of them started playing in the NLL and PLL or MLS or MLL at that time. And it was just one of those things where watching the Canadian players come and play field and blaringly seeing the difference right
Mm-hmm.
away, where it was like they were like a kid in the candy store
Yeah,
because they had
space.
grown up where, yeah, if you caught the ball in the middle of the field, you were just going to get crushed. And now they're like, look at all this space and this bigger net. They're like, this is great. I remember we had a freshman scored like 50 goals one year. So, it's interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, your performance experience didn't start with lacrosse. In college baseball player,
Yeah.
like was performance part of your college training routine, or was it just play ball?
No, 100%. I grew up in Nebraska. And so, Husker Power was,
Yeah.
prevalent at that time and the Big Red Machine and all that. So every high school in Nebraska was like, we should all be doing this, right? And so we did some form or fashion of a strength program. I wouldn't say conditioning. When there was never that was
Not
never
in Nebraska, no.
never part of that. But I was fortunate enough that we had a weight room class in high school. So 3 or 4, however many days a week, we would lift, and then we had summer weight room hours. And so when I got to college, it was one of those things where uh, it was not quite as structured,
Hmm.
but we had strength conditioning coaches, and that was realistically where I kind of went like, this is what you do for a living. And so the two between being a college athlete and where I am today, like that room is where kind of like everything came together, because I think part of me also had some realization that maybe I was not going to be a professional athlete, as much as all of us probably wish and desire for those things. It was something where I saw that I was always pretty proficient in the weight room
Hmm.
because I got introduced to it when I was a freshman in high school, and I kept seeing things improve and saw some success. And then I got to college, and that continued a little bit. And then I realized that there's a guy in this room that this is what he does for a living. And so somewhere something clicked with me, and that was like, if I can't be an athlete, then it would be great if I could find a way to be around athletics, just with my competitive nature and always kind of wanted to be in and around it. And here we are 25 years later.
Yeah,
So,
man, wild. And what was that first, uh, like leadership coaching opportunity?
um, first leadership for me was Mike Sanders, who you might know. Mike was one of my mentors. John Larson, who not many people know. John is a phenomenal coach. Those were my two mentors, kind of coming up, and they kind of the program there in the exercise science department, which is a phenomenal exercise science department at the University of Nebraska Kearney, had slowly built to where there was a graduate assistantship jobs there. And I was fortunate enough that I didn't really want to be in the traditional role because they were focusing on childhood obesity, and I was like, that's not my thing. I get it. Uh, but Mike had left and went to the University of Denver, and so when he left, a graduate assistantship kind of assistant strength conditioning role became open.
Hmm.
And so I was fortunate enough, John granted me that job, and he just threw me out into the wild and let me make a lot of mistakes and gave me a lot of rope where he kind of, stood at arm's length, guided and kind of pushed me in the right directions and made sure that it wasn't killing anybody in there. And that's where it started. And I got really some ownership of 3 or 4 teams when I was in grad school, and it just kind of progressed from there. So
Man, and that responsibility is huge because all of a sudden these kids' livelihoods are in your hand. That
mm,
responsibility
yeah,
of that first year. Did you feel that pressure? Did you feel that weight at that time?
I don't think I was able to really. digest or internalize it at that point. I think for me, it was a mixture of everything being like a fire hose
Mhm.
and at the same time being young and energetic and excited at, just even to have that opportunity. And so looking back, I mean, eh, I don't think there was a part of me that was able to really think that at that level yet.
Yeah.
I don't think I had that level of maturity, to be honest with you.
Was there a moment, an injury, or like a mistake? If coach came down on you, of like, hey, you were unaware here, and was there any like moment decision that led to a consequence that made it real?
Um, to be honest, I think one of the first points where I kind of like stood back and went like, "Holy cow!" Like, I don't really have a whole lot of idea what I don't know yet, and that was when Dr. Jose Antonio, who's founded the ISSN, and he was one of my professors, and he encouraged me to write my first article for the NSCA Journal. Pushed me into taking the CSCS, pushed me into going to my first NSCA conference. And like that, I think for me that was the first time where I was like, oh boy. And I like actually felt like I was really underwater
Hmm.
at that time, where it was like not really knowing how much bigger there was and how much more there was out there at that time.
What was the article?
This is interesting. You might appreciate this. So, the first article that I wrote, keep in mind I'm from Nebraska. At that time, I had two of my high school friends that I played football with that were both on the pro rodeo circuit,
I'm in.
and they were both between the two of them. They qualified for the national finals rodeo probably one of them almost 10 times, the other one probably like 4 times. They were both steer wrestlers. And so the first article I wrote was on steer wrestling,
Dude,
strength and conditioning.
I'm
And
in.
yeah, so it's still out there. I think I have a copy of it somewhere, and I have no idea how I landed on that. I think I was, but it was unique, that's for sure. I don't even know if the article is any good,
I
but we did it.
I'll pull that up. I had a rodeo career that lasted a ride. It cost me $10 to enter into a rodeo, signed my life away, called my dad, told him I loved him, and he just told me, "Good luck." Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In Hunt, Texas. So then the program that I do for myself, I put out there as a product for people and call it Old Bull, based off that ride
Yeah, yeah.
in the rodeo.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, you know, aches and pains that I'm working through as a college athlete now that I'm paying the price for, but just dude, I love it. I always aim to, in Dripping Springs, my town, we got a rodeo. In Wimberley, another close town, there's a rodeo.
Yeah.
So like those small town experiences, I
Awesome.
love it. So yeah, I grew up Houston where it's a big livestock show and
Yeah.
rodeo. I just like the rodeo piece, and
Yeah, yeah.
man, just play the beats, so I get it. So
Yeah.
the timeout. Two things are inevitable for leaders. Your body breaks down and training time gets scarce. The Old Bull program was built for you. Unlike training programs that give you more work than you have time for and force you to adapt to them and figure things out with your limitations, Old Bull adapts to your schedule, your limitations, and your life. Whether you're training in a garage gym with minimal equipment or navigating a crowded gym, I write intelligent exercise blocks that keep you in one area, moving fast instead of losing your equipment in the gym. Get personalized training that attacks joint problems instead of avoiding them, flexible workout durations from 20 to 60 minutes, and a daily leadership coaching that strengthens your mind alongside your body. As one busy dad and professional said it best, smart, flexible workouts that adapt to my unpredictable schedule while keeping me strong and injury free. Try Old Bull free for 7 days, no commitment, just results. Visit the link in the show notes to sign up today. Who's looking out for the leaders? We are. And now, back to the show. Ready, and break. I visited Oklahoma State University, and the fact they had a rodeo team, I'm like,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Like I see that now. There's a lot of kids that from my area in western Nebraska that move on and do that. And it's interesting because I think very few people, obviously, unless you're in that realm, know that exists. But I have friends now who have kids that are like doing that,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, it's awesome.
And lacrosse helmets are actually utilized now.
Yeah, exactly. To come full circle. Yeah, now those guys, where in the past there was no helmets, no
No,
protection, nothing, you just showed up in your pearl snaps and a cowboy hat and let her rip.
literally,
Literally.
man.
Yeah.
I'm at, I'm having flashbacks. The getting back on. Do you own a pair of boots?
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm staring at mine. I'm going to Turnpike Troubadours at Red Rocks
I know.
tomorrow.
Yes,
So
that's gonna be awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I wish I could go.
Robert O'Keen's opening up. It's just a
Have you
whole.
been to a Red Rock show yet?
I've been to Red Rocks I coached a high school team and they played a hockey tournament out here and I just tagged along as coach and then we did it as an experience. I just ran
Yeah.
up the stairs, did a bunch of trunk work, push-ups, dead
Yeah.
bugs on the stage.
Yeah.
So it was fun, but no shows.
Yeah. The first two to 3 years that I lived here, that was my only experiences at Red Rocks. Was I used to run groups up there on Saturday mornings, and we'd do 2 hours of running stairs and all kinds of stuff up there. But I'd never seen a show until like took a few years before I actually took in some entertainment up there. And yeah, it's amazing. You'll have a good time.
Yeah. So you gave me a tour, the new Fast Performance
Yeah.
here, and there's a lot of tools and gadgets here. So now, what's the aim? What's the mission here with this new Fast Performance setup, and what are y'all aiming to accomplish?
Well, I don't know that our mission has changed in regards to like what we hope to accomplish. Number one, we have a lot of different facets within the facility. One of which is an enhancement. We added our recovery center. That part is going to be awesome for us to add as an additional service where having cold plunge and red light sauna and those types of things. And in the last year and a half or so, we added a physical therapist into our building who's very sport minded, spent some time in Major League Baseball. So I think those things are great because it creates an expansion of what training is, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we message the message we send to a lot of our kids, whether they're junior high, high school, college, pro guys, or whatever, is that showing up and working out is the easy part.
Yeah.
And you've got 22, 23 other hours of the day to either do a really poor job or not really maximize the work that maybe you're willing to put in here. So I think for us, it is trying to create a broader picture, and some of that is communicating it outwardly to young athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Having, as you said, the tools and gadgets and all that stuff is great, and we have a lot of great things, with Kaiser being one of our strategic partners and having access to state-of-the-art equipment. But I tell people all the time that, I mean, my training's not sexy. It's understanding that if you give me a 15-year-old kid or a 14-year-old kid or whatever that is, guess what? I don't care if they play hockey. I don't care if they play lacrosse. I don't care if they play football. Like, your objective is going to be to develop them through building strength and building a foundation and all those other things that become really the baseline of how they're going to see much more levels of success and growth down the road that hopefully will yield them to find greater levels of success.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably a little bit of a cop out, but I mean, at the end of the day, I don't get into gimmicky stuff. Have dealt so much throughout the bulk of my career with rotational athletes. So I think that maybe if there was one thing that I get kind of pigeonholed into is people associate me a lot with rotational based stuff. And I spent my master's thesis being on biomechanics and speed enhancement stuff and every way and method and strategy to do all that stuff. And I probably don't outwardly talk as much about that as I used to, because I felt like in my early part of my career, everyone was a speed guy. And I was like, okay, but I think that teaching kids to move is a big part of it too. And I mean, I've got some young kids right now where parents come in with cautious kind of approach, and I'm like, our main objective is to teach them how to move their body in space. Adding resistance to it is going to be a progression of that. And so That's kind of where I start with a lot of it, and sometimes that may not even be just young kids. I mean, we see high school level, college level, and sometimes even my pro guys where I'm like, oh boy, we got a lot of work to do because they've gotten here off a lot of natural given ability, right?
Yeah.
And how can we try and give them at that level? All you're trying to do is just make small tweaks to give them an extra edge, to give them another 1% that, a 14, 15 year old's got just a wide open window of places you can attack.
Hmm. And the potential to prolong those
Oh,
careers.
for
So give them
sure.
1% now, and
Yes. Yes.
because you're introducing not only the weights, but also behaviors, recovery. It's
Hmm.
going to help them in that long run.
For sure. And so I think for me, a lot of that has just been relationship and building relationship. And when you get to a point where they're seeking you out for advice, for information, for help, for assistance, for ideas and things like that, the amount that you start to share with them or how far you can expand that window grows a lot faster. And so I talk a lot about that with coaches that come through our building that I'm like, hey, if you can't communicate, if you can't create relationships in this type of setting in a private sector, you're going to struggle.
Hmm.
And I think that's just been a process over my career is understanding that, I tell a funny story about one of my lacrosse players going back to the Mammoth, and I talk in a lot of presentations I do. The first practice that I ever walked onto the field, and you talk about like experiences. This is one of them where I will never forget walking onto the field thinking like, oh boy, like these are pro guys, and like, I hope they're gonna like accept me or listen to me and all this and that. And I had a player walk up and he says, "Hey, my name's Brian. Welcome to the team. Don't work out. Don't plan to. See you later," and walks off. And I was like, oh crap, like, all right, and I'm like, is this what I just walked into? And that was really a glaring moment where fast forward a year and a half, and that same guy is texting me, sending me messages. Hey, I did this today, and he's like bragging to me about training, about
Hmm.
working out and what he did. And I'm like, all right, that was a process. And so those are things that I think you take with you and you like bank them for use later on when you run into situations of how am I going to create an impact with people. And thankfully I didn't screw that one up.
No, because now you can call him up, Brian. I'm having this again. Need
Yeah,
you to talk to this guy.
yeah.
He's
So
been there, done that, right?
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, having that buy-in and then banking the experience of here's a professional that's been where you want to go, and
Right.
he's got a thing to share with you.
For sure. Yeah.
Um, and so now within the respect to stepping back to youth and behaviors, you're almost teaching them how to become a professional. So what's the process there? You sold the parents, kid signs up, and now they enter into this realm where, okay, yes, we're going to teach you how to move and
Hmm.
how to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I found that has helped a lot with that, and it goes back to communication piece, is getting them to connect the dots and understand. I found that it's a lot more challenging if you say, "Hey, do this, do this, do this," and you sometimes lose sight of how valuable it is for them to understand why.
Mhm.
Why are they doing the things they're doing? How is this going to help them? And so, the example I gave you of the kid that's going to come in a little bit, right? The other day, it was yesterday, in fact, he was in, and he speaks no English. His brother plays Major League Baseball, and so for me, talk about like challenges, right? Like I have to think more intuitively, like how am I going to get him to understand me? And yesterday, we were doing like a med ball throwdown, like from a single leg. And obviously, as pitchers, one of the things we talk about is being stable on that front leg.
Mhm.
And so as I'm showing him this drill, I kind of like, do that motion like, hey, connect, like this is why we're doing that. And I've found that when you're able to do or create situations like that within training, that the purpose will go up, the effort level will go up, their buy-in that you're understanding what they need will go up, and that ultimately, you'll probably get a better result down, it may not be today, it may be even down the road, but at least they know that you are in their best interest and also understand what they need.
Mhm. And the longer we work with a kid, the more inevitable it is for them to fail, right? In respect to
Oh, for
weightlifting,
sure.
tree doesn't grow to the sky forever. It's going to shoot up. You're going to get
Hmm.
super strong, and then.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that first failure to help them for the future failures on the field?
Well, I think that again, everyone's different, right? I mean, there's a lot of uh, you start adding in this to all of this, and that becomes very different with each person, right? What are they motivated by, and are they afraid to fail? Are they motivated by success? Are they, is there someone or something that they're trying to emulate or seek out, right? And so, a lot of times I've found that when you see kids fail or come short, is you have to get them to understand that strength, for example, strength is not an overnight thing. Strength is a longitudinal process, right? And that there's going to be ebbs and flows. And like, I've got a high school kid. He's gonna move on to play college ball next year, and he has just been like so all in on trying to gain weight. He's just a lean kid that I mean, he just burns calories, and he's got a high metabolism. I mean, I wish I had it, but at the end of the day, he's doing all the right things, and I've seen him over the last like year and a half get frustrated, and we've sat down and analyzed some things. I mean, this kid's logging everything. He's using MyFitnessPal and all these other things that are really you know intentional on how he's been trying to accomplish this, and then he hasn't seen the result. He's like, I'm doing all the right things, and I'm like, okay, well, but are we seeing improvements in, for example, he did some showcase stuff and his 60-yard dash got faster. And I said, well, your weight was the same. You didn't gain any weight, but you ran faster. So what's more important here? Is it the performance aspect of it, or is it the number? Right.
Mhm.
And so I think sometimes creating perspective of either where they're at that time, because sometimes within a given year, it could be in season, off season, or whatever, you and I know that we're going to see differing levels of growth or differing levels of performance or fatigue,
Yeah.
even, right? That are going to influence how sometimes they perceive failures. And, so I think that's something that just takes time to be able to step back from. And I try to do my best to like create those perspectives sometimes where if you just go like, oh yeah, I don't know, like, oh, that sucks, dude, sorry. Like it's not, doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And so it's just giving them reassurances that having setbacks isn't altruistic.
Yeah, and I like the phrase you said, creating perspectives.
Yeah,
In the same respect, where you're giving why for this particular med ball exercise and where it values a pitcher, it's almost we can take the same failure, right? We fail in our back squat. Well, how you respond to that, because we got another set, or we're coming back to back squats next week. Now, this is similar to when you get your next opportunity at the plate or
right,
the face off X,
for
whatever
sure.
it may be.
Yeah,
So you can work that into, yeah, and how do we respond to this is
exactly.
failure? It's inevitable.
Oh, without
And
question.
I mean, baseball, right? The old cliche, you can
Oh yeah,
be right 30% of the time and make it to the Hall of Fame.
you got it.
It's like weathermen in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true, and I think that yeah, there's few, yeah, and obviously they exist, but it's like if you're going to be in any competitive realm, failure is inevitable.
Hmm.
It's how you deal with failure that's going to determine where or how much success you'll have, whether that's next week, next month, next year, or even further down the road.
Yeah, and a big mission with captains as coaches is reframing failure, and that,
Hmm.
and also in the respect that sports don't teach lessons, captains and coaches do. So, like baseball didn't teach you anything; it's just a ball. football, same. I'm dealing with that in Texas every single day,
Oh yeah.
right? Football taught me this. You're going to play football.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, Dad. So now you're in this position to teach them the lessons. Even if there's a language barrier, you're still
Uh,
in that perspective and you're modeling the behavior, see how they respond to circumstance
Oh, for
and
sure.
preparing them for their moment.
Yeah.
Like baseball, there's plenty of moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you get them to create an ability to step back from it too, right? Like sometimes I think if you can encourage them to evaluate, right? And there's a level of honesty in that that has to also coincide with it, which is how did you mentally put yourself in that position? How did you physically put yourself in that position? Did you spend the repetition up front on both the physical and the mental side? I've had some athletes, some track athletes, for example, where one of the exercises that I do with them is I tell them before race day, I want you to run that race 10 times the night before. And I want you to think about, I kind of structure a race as a checklist, right, of execution. And so and we build that up through our training and we've done that. We did that with, NFL combine guys and pro day guys and stuff like that, where I go, if you just execute based on the things that we installed, right? One after another. And you don't get up there and think like, I need to run 4-3. I need to, whatever, that you just stay process driven on how you execute that entire bout, the time will find itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And those are things that I think have been I've found to be successful, right? Getting athletes to buy into that stuff, right? Because a lot of times, especially when you start talking about this space, right, they're like, yeah, whatever, I just go let it rip, like, and it's the bravado and some of those things, and if you can get them to just dip their toe in the water and they go, oh, that actually helped, or oh, that actually worked, it'll start yielding a lot more for them.
Mm-hmm. Have, have you had challenges in that headspace where it's been a hard nut for you to crack to create self-awareness for an individual?
Oh, uh, countless, countless. Odd story. I had a FIFA CONCACAF level official that I used to train.
A
Um,
referee?
a referee. And a lot of people probably don't know this, but obviously in a soccer game, there's a lot of running, and that also includes officials.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that level, at the international level, and she did a lot of college games as well, um, they have to maintain a certain fitness standard to keep their job.
Did not know that.
And so one of those is kind of a version of a beep test, but it's a 2 mile test on the track where you have to run 75 meters, you get 25 meters recovery, 75 meters, 25 meters recovery, and you do that for 2 miles, right? And it was 17, 18 seconds per 75. So it's not necessarily a max effort sprint, it's more of a tempo based, right? And then they also have to run a 40-meter dash. They have to do 6 of them with a 1 minute break. Okay.
Same day.
One after another.
Okay.
And this individual, she would have run that 2 mile test any day of the week, but running that 40-meter dash. And they got it was electronically timed, laser timed, and they got a meter and a half run in. So it wasn't even from a dead stop, right? And there's a time standard. I don't remember what it was at this point. And her mental like status or state with running those 40s, her speed was there. She had plenty of, like, I wouldn't say plenty, but she had enough speed to accomplish that task. And I worked with her for a couple of years. And even as we made progress and improvements in her speed, it always came down to how can we get right here to know that we're capable. And it was just ongoing. It was always ongoing, that had nothing to do with the physical part. It was always about like, you have to trust in the process. You have to believe in what you're capable of. You have to know that all this work we've done is going to get you through this. This is not hard, right? And me being a guy that was always like speed, power, whatever, like I'd be like, I run those 40s like any day of the week before I want to run that 2 mile
Yeah.
test. I'm like, I'm out on that, right? Not her, the complete opposite. So stuff like that, I think is, I mean, it was challenging, right? Because I'm like, how do I build enough confidence in her to know that she doesn't have to worry about it? Like she's fine. You're gonna be fine,
Hmm.
right?
And take us back to earlier in your career where the stuff on paper made sense, and then you just didn't understand why some of the athletes didn't either buy in or believe in themselves when you saw it.
Yeah, I think there's countless, occurrences with stuff like that where you talk with other coaches, staff members, whatever, and they all go, man, it's all there, right? Like, how do we just need them to just grasp it, right? To reach out and grab a hold of it, and I find that over the years, there's so many times where us as strength conditioning coaches have way more impact and contact points with athletes than even coaches do.
Hmm.
Because coaches are there for practices, coaches are there for film sessions, and then they're like, okay, do whatever, go do whatever else you do, right? And so I think early on I recognized, and maybe I didn't, but was made aware of it by, one of my mentors like Mike or whoever. And they're like, you realize we spend more hours with these kids than probably anybody else, outside of, friends and family outside, that
Hmm.
type of thing. And so for me, I think that it was when you hear those things, right, where outside of the kid being present, you're having those conversations, and then or you personally seeing those things and finding opportunities to like, hey, how can I maybe pump their tires when you get the opportunity, right? How can I, you know, get build their confidence by saying like, man, like that's, and now we have tech, right? Like we can utilize, output power, those types of things where they see it. And I think the more that you utilize those windows of opportunity for them to like know, like, hey man, like see this improvement, see how much better this is getting, like, right, like that was faster, that was more powerful, that was quicker, whatever that was. And sometimes that's where I think today's world where tech and some of that stuff helps meet us in a place where we take the subjective and we can add an objective measure to it.
Hmm.
And when you can do that, it takes the part of me standing back and just being like, oh, good job. And I always say, like, well, good job, how? Good job, why? Yeah, and that type of thing where then you can go, well, look, it was a good job because I know that was better than last rep or last week or whatever that was. And, it's not foolproof, but I think that it helps.
And helps calibrate their own esteem.
Oh, for sure.
So if they're not feeling it one day, but like
Yeah.
their body's feeling it, now we can help level set. And
Yeah.
then if maybe the ego's up here, the body's performing down here,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
how can we step in to then get it where we need to go?
My favorite for that, because I mean, right? Like it's like this with athletes, right? At any level where they come in and they're like, you can tell they're tired, it's body language, it's nonverbals and things like that. And my favorite thing to say on those days, I'm like, you don't have to be your best today. I just need your best, right? Whatever that is on that day may
Hmm.
not be your best day. It may not be your absolute, but I just need you to be the best you can today and know that there's going to be days that you're better, and that's okay, right?
Yeah. And much different expectation and communication than the sport coach, I imagine.
Oh, we don't have enough time for that one.
Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast,
I
but
know. That's why I still like to do both strength and sport, just
yeah,
coaching at the high school level, and just to have empathy and then see where communications fall short.
for
Just
sure.
as a lot to observe as an assistant to where ideas, thoughts are miscommunicated or not communicated,
Right.
all different things. So do love to stay in both sides of the ball and then present problems, and have talked to a number of sport coaches in
Yeah.
this seat
Yeah.
and trying to get okay, where is your mindset in the program, in your practice plans, in
Mm,
this development, and where can strength coaches help to understand?
yeah,
Because they get the same where we're thinking in the realm of strength, power, speeds, and attributes, and theirs is all skill and
yeah,
execution. But then in my mind and how I've communicated with them is strength, power, speed, movement, where we live. Those are the fundamentals of the fundamentals.
yeah,
So it's one layer underneath, and that's why I'm passionate about the warm up and dynamic movement.
for
Seeing
sure.
that as for a sport coach, don't just let the kids do whatever they want or just take over that. I encourage you to engage because this is where you have 10 minutes of long term athletic development
Without
and
question.
your check ins of not just giving them hard time, you're actually checking in how they're moving, if they're engaged, not engaged, everything.
I tell people that's my functional movement screen every day,
Yeah.
which is you're going to see variability in individuals in teams all the time, and utilizing that first 15 to 20 minutes of doing soft tissue mobility warm up and those types of things tells you more about like what you're going to be up against or things that maybe you should ask more questions about that if you just do the casual like oh like hey man like what'd you do last night, how was dinner, and you waste that opportunity, then you miss out on so much information as a coach that you could be gathering that is going to determine what you're going to see next,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so yeah, I think as you were kind of talking about that, and talking about the coaches side of it as well, where I mean some of the best dynamics that I have seen in all of the locker rooms that I've been in and things like that over the years has been where the head coach, right, which ultimately I answer to,
Right.
right, is the highest level of success in that I've seen are when a head coach says, "Well, you're our goalie coach, you're our offensive coach, you're the strength coach, you're whatever," and we talk about how all that is going to influence the goal of the collective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he allows you to do your job and me to do my job and whatever. There's a level of expectation that comes with that, but being able to recognize that like my goal is to manage all of these things, right, individually so that collectively we're all on the same page to be able to succeed. And, obviously both ends of that spectrum I've seen where,
Mm-hmm.
failures have come from, not allowing or too controlled or, maybe having unreal expectations of, what you have in that room or, athletes that you have and understanding that in order for everything to work at the most, ideal level, right, is putting the right people in place for them to do what they're good at.
Mm-hmm. And then effectively leading the leaders
Yeah, exactly.
versus trying to press them down because it's not your way.
Yeah, exactly.
Timeout. Text here at Train Heroic headquarters, meeting with the team to talk about the coaching experience that I'm able to provide for my athletes. So if you're a coach and want to put your program out there on an app that athletes actually enjoy using, Train Heroics for you. I've been using it since 2014, delivering literally over tens of thousands of workouts to athletes, and the Train Heroic allows me to provide the unique coaching experience that I want to. Uploading video, providing coaching feedback, directions, and building a community. That's why I love Train Heroic. And if you want to take your athletes where they can't take themselves, that they want to go, head to trainheroic.com/captains and check out how you can deliver programming to them. And now back to the show. Ready, and rip. I love that. So a lot of different teams from Mammoth to professionals all over. What about the relationship between the coach and the team captain? So
Mm,
it's that a lot of responsibility. The communication comes from the staff to the captain to then get down to the team. And
yeah,
the expectation goes the other way. Hey, what is the team saying?
yeah,
Like in the locker room,
yeah,
outside of ball, that we need to be aware of.
yeah. I think I've been fortunate that, I mean, obviously, current topic, you're talking about Mammoth and lacrosse that I've been around long enough now that obviously my voice and ability to discuss, whether that's openly or amongst groups or within the staff and things like that, obviously has grown over time. But multiple times throughout the course of the year, I have conversations with the captains. I do, and I'll come to them and say, "What's going on?" All those guys have. There's a group chat, right? Like, and I don't ask, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" I ask, "What's the feeling? What's the pulse? How's the attitude? What's the vibe like? Is there something we're missing?" And obviously, seeing success and failure, I mean, over the course of all that time, seen plenty of both. And the more that your leaders in the room help to drive things between the coaches, through the captains, and down through the lineup, as well as externally to everyone else, the better, right? And if you miss out on that, then you can have a group of coaches that are completely detached from your leadership,
Mm-hmm.
that the room can completely fall apart, right? And if you've got guys even, that are at the bottom of your roster that feel like they're not contributing or they don't have any influence on what's going on, then guess what? Like, they're gonna slowly be it can go a lot of ways. They can be cantankerous. They can be,
I like
uh,
that word.
yeah, they can be, disgruntled. They can, at times be motivated, right? Like, I want to move up the ladder. I want to prove myself and things like that. But um, when you have 20 some guys in a room, you're guaranteed to have a lot of personalities, and to get them to all pull in the same direction is where your leadership becomes so critical.
Mm-hmm. Especially at the professional level, because they all did their way, a certain way, to get
Oh,
them
yeah.
there, and they're there. So
Yeah.
their way is not wrong.
Right.
So what's a captain to say that they're not doing it correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're fortunate. Our leadership has been great. I mean, our team captain, he's the guy that's first there. He's the guy that leads in every aspect. He's the guy that leads vocally. He's the guy that, gets into all the dirty areas. He does all the little things all the time. And it's one of those things where if you come into that room for the first time, it doesn't take long for you to realize why he's in that position.
Yeah.
And you know, and you see the other side of it, where guys are granted that maybe shouldn't be, and it can go entirely the other direction. So I think, to me, finding those types of people that they become the pulse and emulation of what you want the culture within that room to look like.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it all starts with communication, establishing the mission, the vision, the values of the team, making sure the captain not only understands it but also aligns with it.
Hmm.
It's oftentimes responsibility off the field
Yeah.
is on them.
We usually have, at the beginning of a training camp, we will have a meeting where we talk about, like, what's our identity going to be, and it's driven by the players. And it becomes a pretty lengthy discussion, like, how do we want to play? How do we want what are going to be our goals each week, like, in terms of, you know some of them being performance related, some of them being characteristics related, and those go in our locker room all the time. And every week it's a visual reminder of, like, this is what we said we believed in, this is what we said that we want to accomplish, this is what we believe we're capable of. And I know sometimes I'm not huge on that stuff, because I think it's easy to say, but sometimes it's a lot tougher to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding the right dynamic of people that are in your room that fully believe in that buy into that, and it's not just lip service, is, I think, the next layer of that, of being, like, at that level, but then separating yourself from it to actually become an elite level.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, all great points and takeaways. To wind down, I want to give you opportunity to talk about our room here. And a big passion of yours, I know, is hunting. So
Yes.
any big trips coming up, and then
Yeah.
where does the hunting training perspective and experience that you have translate into things
Yeah.
that you are putting out into the universe?
Well, my business partner Jason and I started a passion project that's called Hunt, Hike, Harvest Outdoors. And it really stemmed from the fact that I grew up as I mean, hunting, fishing, and things like that. And as I've gotten older and I moved to Colorado, I got really into archery hunting and things like that. And Jason, who was a professional baseball player, and he had started getting into it late in his career, and then we merged our businesses. And he says, every year we spend all this time prepping to go on like 7, 8, 10 day, hunts at 10,000 foot elevation. And we're putting on 60, 70, 80 miles in the back country, on foot. And he's like, you're training for that. He's like, why would you not use your expertise and start sharing that with people in that community? And so that's really where it was born. We're 5 years into it now, and we just actually finished. I just presented a couple weeks ago at the Mile High Hunt and Fish Expo, where we released 3 years of data that we did on simulated packouts of a quartered out elk. And we have an event that starts tomorrow, and what we did is we put biomarkers on every single competitor. This Western Hunt Fest is the event, and what we do is competitors come out and they carry what is the equivalent of 250 pounds of what would be an elk. They have to carry head and antlers, and they have to carry their bow, and it's in backcountry territory.
Awesome.
And so then we track their heart rates, average, max heart rates, their speed, average speed, max speed, elevation gain, loss, distance covered, calories burned, and then an estimated VO2 max from that. And we compiled 3 years worth of that data. Andy Wolf, who's at Tarleton State, he's a
That's
big,
Texas, yeah.
yeah, he's a big hunter, outdoorsman. He came to one of our tactical strength and conditioning courses, and I sent him all the data, and he started crunching it, and we started coming up with, hey, where were people successful and where did people fail? And so we're starting to share that information and encourage people like, hey, a lot of folks in the outdoor space, they target this like one trip every year on their calendar. And I tell people that our mission with that is that we're trying to enhance and enrich those experiences as much as we can through the use of our knowledge to get them better prepared physically and know what they're getting themselves into so that they get a better chance to enjoy it, because elk hunters will burn potentially up to 7, 8 or more thousand calories a day in the backcountry. And if you're not prepared for that, it's no joke.
No, and injury risk reduction,
Oh, for sure.
recovery, so you can cover more ground the next day.
100%.
It's not just
Yeah.
all in one day.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It kind of mixes the profession with the passion, and
that's ikigai.
yeah,
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 yeah, man, I do admire that, and then it's fun to see that because we were just talking about that a few years ago,
yeah,
when just getting it off the ground, but now sitting in the room,
yeah,
seeing it go full on, and you got a big event this weekend, which is fun. So
yeah. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Where can people go to? Well, we're at Fast Performance,
Yep,
Denver, Colorado,
yep.
to check out in person. What about online to continue to educate? And you got a book out that we didn't even get to.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, so fastcolorado.com. You can find us at Fast Performance CO on Instagram, Facebook, any of the socials and things like that. And yeah, we're easy to find. We're right here, centrally located in Denver. We're actually Lakewood, which is we're just southwest of downtown, and we're excited about our new space and everything that's going to go on there. And look us up. We are much broader in terms of sports and things like that than just lacrosse. We have a lot of baseball in our facility. We've got a tremendous staff in terms of baseball development. But JC works with a lot of alpine athletes. Him and I both have a lot of experience in that realm as well. And we have a huge contingency of soccer players, and we've done everything from NFL combine prep to training sprinters and everything in between.
Referees.
And referees, yeah. I even trained a professional jockey once. So yeah, there's a broad spectrum of what we're capable of. And yeah, the lacrosse book, we finished that one as well, which was super cool. Matt Nine and myself, Human Kinetics. It was a unique opportunity. We'll just throw that in the mix real quick. Strength training, is it strength training for lacrosse or training for lacrosse? And yeah.
But everything you need to know about the book is in the book. So
Yeah. So go check it out.
Yeah, cool, man. I appreciate your time.
100%. Thank you.
And yeah, touring the facility and seeing all this, I'm excited for future fast performance.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's awesome to have you in-house. So
Yeah, man.
thank you for coming.